Yeah, hello there, everybody. This is David Rowell from Join Up Dots at the back of his garden. You having a nice day, are you? Let's start the show.
Wherever you are, whatever you do, have a nice day.
When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be. But somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Rowell.
Yes, hello there, everybody. Hello there across the world, wherever you're listening to the show. It's an absolute delight to have you on episode 561. Well, you're not on episode 561, but one day you probably will be a guest on this show, because that's what it's all about. It's about inspiring you guys to believe that the dream is out there, that you can go and get the dream, and basically you can have a kick-ass life. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because we have got a lady from the UK who has set out to create her dream after starting in a position that could have allowed her to say, how are things ever going to happen for me? Now, as she says, after growing up in a very poor household and leaving school with very few qualifications, I went on to forge a successful career as a top-performing manager responsible for a turnover of 9 million, as well as the coaching and development of staff and agents. But in May 2014, I realised I was no longer happy in the job or the company, and decided to follow my dreams to become an author and speaker. Now, this is the thing, listeners. She didn't know how she was going to achieve it, but she knew she would. She also didn't know the first thing about writing a book or how to become a speaker, and started by researching on Google how to achieve it. And she did take a very big gamble walking away from the security of a monthly paycheck, but she also knew it was time to go. Now, her friends and family thought she was living in cloud cuckoo land to think that at the ripe old age of 46, shouldn't say a woman's age, but there you go, she's taken her career in a completely new direction and ultimately now lives the dream. As she says, Colonel Sanders was 65 when he founded KFC, so being 46 didn't put me off. I didn't let their lack of faith stop me. I knew after growing up with very little and achieving what I already had, anything was possible, so I started on my new vocation. Well, when I heard this, I just knew that I had to have her on the show, as this is the classic example of finding yourself in the position where other people's beliefs could quite easily have become her legacy, allowing herself to be held back by their lack of vision and staying where she was by the fear of doing what others think is possible. And now, with her own self-named company going from strength to strength, she's now a recognised authority on confidence and personal development, and has been a regular guest on TV and radio, as well as a keen participant in a women's organisation, while also organising and comparing at events to raise much needed funds for charity organisations. So how did she manage to push through the doubts, insecurities and bad advice of others when so many people will listen and crush their own dreams due to not believing in themselves as much as they do others? And has it been harder than she expected, or plain sailing? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Angela Preston. Good afternoon, wow. Angela. Wow. How are you?
What an introduction. If I was listening to that introduction, I would want to meet me. I really would. And that's only because of the introduction you've just given to me, David. Thank you so much. That sounds much more wonderful than I ever thought it could be.
Oh, come off it, Angela. Come off it. I'm going to stop you, right? Because I already get a feeling that you're a lady who likes to talk. So I'm gonna make sure that I take control of this show. Would I be right? In a word, single word, yes or no?
Yes.
There you go. I could sense that right at the very beginning. But you are somebody with a fantastic story. You're somebody that at that age when almost life might have passed you by, that you might have had kids, you're married, you're settled down. Oh, it's too late to change direction. You've done it. So you are a remarkable person. And not only would you like to meet you, I would like to meet you. And I'm sure all my listeners would as well. I will now let you talk.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David. You've worked me out very quickly. Sometimes people don't work me out that quickly, but you have. I decided after my children had grown up, I'd always wanted from a young age to be a journalist, and I was never able to do it because I had a family and I couldn't give up my job for financial reasons. And at the ripe old age of 46, my youngest son had finally found the path that he wanted to go down. I decided it was time for me to follow my dreams and achieve what I'd always wanted to do. And the company that I worked in was no longer serving what I'd always wanted to do. When I was working in the company, I always thought results was my passion and getting results, because I was a top performing manager and leader, and I often went into underperforming branches to turn them around. But it was only as I left the company, I realised it was people that inspired me to keep going and keep moving forward, because the more I learned about myself and the more I understood how to get results, the more I could inspire others to grow and develop themselves. So at 46, I thought this company is no longer fulfilling that need inside for me to keep moving forward and growing and reaching more people. Because I was cocooned in this company, I wasn't reaching the audiences that I wanted to. So after a lot of soul searching, and really, if I'm totally honest, I was terrified of making this decision. I'd got up one morning. It was the 10th of May 2014, and I was talking about it last week to my husband. I sat on the end of the bed, and I just had a shower, I was doing my makeup, ready to go out for the day ahead. And I thought, I can't do this no more. I do not like the company and the way in which it's going. I don't like what it stands for anymore. And this company had built a foundation for me to grow on. So for me to have them feelings, it was really hard to admit that to myself. But I sat and looked in the mirror and I thought, today's the day. I am changing my life and I am never going to look back.
Right, let's just stop you there, because there's so many nuggets that I wanted to jump in. I'm somebody who likes to talk as well, Angela, as you can probably guess. And the thing that jumped out at me was, so many people will have those feelings. So many people will go, I don't like this company anymore. I've outgrown it. But more often than not, what they do is then go into almost the same company elsewhere. They go to a different company, which is, just doing the same kind of thing. And then after a while, they get those same feelings come back again. Why were you different? Why did you not just go for the comfort of leaving what you were doing to go to somewhere else that was doing something else?
If I am totally honest, David, I had a huge point to prove. A huge point. I left under not so nice circumstances because I wasn't happy and I didn't enjoy how the company was treating the people. So I had a huge point to prove, and I didn't want to go back into the same type of industry and feel the same way in a year's time. And I thought the only way that I can prove how good I really was to be better than I was. And every single person has got that inside them to prove to themselves. I had a point to prove to the company, but I had a bigger point to prove to myself, because I continuously like to challenge myself. So the only way to do that was to step away from what I knew. I had only worked in this industry for the last 24 years or something. So for me to go into a completely new environment and take up a completely different career, it was a big gamble. An absolutely massive gamble to take. But a couple of years before, I'd been to a conference with the company, and we'd had a motivational speaker, and this guy's name was Malcolm Hewitt. And I don't know what this guy did to me, but he seemed to find something inside me deep down to make me realise that's where my vocation was.
Yeah, but the message always comes along at some time, doesn't it? So Malcolm was just saying what you were ready to hear. Yeah. And it could have been him, it could have been anyone.
Exactly. This man didn't know me from Adam. I was just one of 1,100 people at that conference that day. He welcomed every single person through the door. And for me, that meant a lot, to stand and welcome 1,100 people, shake hands with every single person. And then when he stood on the stage and he delivered his message, and it was all about getting results, it was all about being positive. I am a naturally very positive person, and I'm always full of the joys of spring. So this man resonated with how I felt, and I thought at the time, he does what I do, but just on a bigger level. So when I decided to leave the company, I thought, I am going to do what Malcolm Hewitt's done, because I've been doing that for the past 5 years. You know, I quite often went into branches and turned them around in a short period of time. The last branch I turned around from the bottom of the company to number 1 in 8 weeks. And that's when I realised that this was no longer feeding that need inside to keep challenging and moving forward, because I felt like I'd gone to the end of the road. I didn't want promotion in the company because I just wanted to do what I was born to do. And for me, I thought the only way to do this is do what I've always wanted to do. And that was to become a motivational speaker, become a life coach, become an author. So really, the only way I could do that was by stepping away from the industry that I knew, because if I wanted to prove that point to myself and others, what I was capable of, I had to do something extraordinary, completely different to what I'd known.
Okay, $1 million question then, Angela. Okay, it's kind of easy for us to imagine you sitting on the side of your bed, pulling open your blouse, and there's a big S, and that's your super talent, and you're just going to find the thing that operates in that vicinity of what you're really good at. But more often than not, people don't quite grasp that the thing that they're really good at is the thing that they can transition with. They kind of almost feel that they need to leave the skills behind when they go on to the next stage. Now, how did you always know that that was your dream? How did you know that it was in your heart that you wanted to do what you're doing now? And was there any period when you were confused when transitioning whether you were doing the right thing?
From a tiny little girl, I always wanted to help people. Always was the first to offer help, advice and guidance. And when I went into a management position, that just sort of built along the way even stronger. That need to feel like I was impacting people's lives in a positive way. So I knew from a very early age that the path I wanted to go down was inspiring and helping people to become better than they are. When you talk about did anything get in my way, yes, the transition was terrifying, absolutely terrifying, because I thought, have I got the self-belief in me to do this? Have I got the confidence to keep going when doors close in your face? I had a friend tell me she thought I was having a midlife crisis simply because I wanted to step away from the norm and do what I wanted to do. And I got that with her, because maybe I would have felt the same if I was looking at someone else doing what I was doing. But that self-belief inside just kept pushing me. And I had a little voice where we can get voices telling us you're not good enough, this is not for you. I had that voice inside my head telling me this is the path you are meant to take. No matter how many obstacles, how many challenges you face, how many trials that will test you and your resilience, you have to keep going, because there's people out there that need to hear your story. There's people out there that want to know how you've achieved your dreams. And that's what has always kept. David, still to this day, I still have those difficult days questioning myself whether it's the right thing to do, or whether I've done the right thing to walk away from the comfort of a monthly paycheck. But that voice that tells me you are capable of this, you are worthy of this, there's a lot of people that need to know how you did it, is what keeps me going and what keeps me moving forward every single day to achieve something new, to take me to the end of where I want to be. My biggest dream is to go and open a foundation in India. And every day I'm working closer to achieving that dream.
Now, well, we've got an academy through the show called Dream Starter Academy. And I realised early in the days, Angela, that the key point to success is not being able to build websites. It's not about connecting with customers. It's not about any of the things that you think it is. It's about connecting with yourself. It's about actually finding that thing in you, which on a Monday morning when everything is going wrong, you perceive it's going wrong, you're still willing to go and do it again and keep moving forward. But without the support of others, which most people haven't, which is why we created this academy so people can come and be supported and nurtured on a daily basis. How did you do that? Did you find kindred spirits? Was it your husband that was your big sort of your Dumbo's magic feather and gave you the confidence to keep moving forward on those rainy Mondays when you look at your bank balance and it's just going one way?
My husband is the biggest supporter I could ever have in my whole lifetime. We've been married 25 years in August, and every decision I have made, he's backed it at 100%, even if it's been the wrong decision, because he knows that there's a reason behind why I've made that decision. So without his support, I would never have got where I am today, because it's been him lifting me up when I have dark days to say, come on, you can do this. I believe in you. And that belief in myself becomes stronger from the belief that he has. I decided when I was going to be a motivational speaker, the best way to be a motivational speaker that people want to listen to was to add a bit of humour in. And I am always for humour. My husband and I turn everything into a joke. So I decided to do a comedy course, a 6-week comedy course. That at the end of that course, we had to deliver a 7-minute gig in front of friends and family. I was absolutely terrified on that first night. And my husband had met me at the end of the night. He came to meet me and said, how did it go? And I said, I'm not going back. It's too scary. It's absolutely terrifying. He said, well, that's what you want to do. So if you can't go back there to make people laugh, how are you going to deliver your message? And I looked at him and I thought, he's right. I'll just go one more week and see what it's like.
Did a bit of you just want to sort of punch him in the face and go back to your bedroom?
Kick him right in the leg, right in the shin, so he couldn't walk, because I didn't want to walk back to this place that was going to teach me the skills that I needed. But I was terrified, so I thought, okay, I'll go back one more time just to see what it's like. I went back the following week, because when I went off work, I was very ill. I'd been very ill, and I was on the verge of a breakdown. Actually being sectioned, David, only for my husband promising that he would support me and look after me. So I was very ill. So for him to get me to this comedy course was, that was a big, huge point in my life and a huge change. And then for me to decide, well, I can't go back. He was sort of worrying how this would affect me. So I said, okay, I'll go back one week. I went back the following week. And as each week went on, I got more confident and I was enjoying it more. And I thought, this is definitely what I want. I want to be on stage speaking to an audience, inspiring them. I knew I didn't want to be a stand-up comedian. I knew that wasn't the reason why I was there. 6 weeks later, from that first week when I couldn't do 30 seconds, 6 weeks later, we had to write a script out, and my husband and I wrote a script between us. And we were doing the gig in the Baby Blue in the Albert Dock, and we got halfway down. And I said, turn the car around. I can't go. I cannot go. He said, you can. I said, I can't. I cannot go. He said, if you don't go, you're letting all the family down and all the friends that have turned up there for you, and you're letting me down. And I looked at him and I thought, I really do feel like punching him, because I would have gone back. I would have just gone home and forgot about that night. But I thought, he made me realise that I wasn't just letting me down. It was the other people that had supported me on this journey. So off we went. I was shaking from head to toe. And when I got on the stage, the first couple of seconds, I couldn't talk. My voice was faltering. I couldn't look at anyone. But as I walked up towards when they called my name out, Barry had his back to me and I rubbed his back for good luck. I got on the stage and it was like I was like a rabbit in headlights. Couldn't see anyone because I was that terrified, and my voice was faltering. But after 30 to 40 seconds, it was just flowing out. I actually went 10 minutes, as you can gather.
And let's just stop you there, Angela. So what was the change in that first few seconds to the first few minutes? Was it just you pushing through? Did somebody give you a smile in the audience that gave you confidence?
It was Barry.
It was Barry.
He looked at me. He looked at me, and out of all the people sitting there, he said, you can do this. And his words, as soon as I heard those words, you can do this. Bearing in mind, David, he wouldn't dream of getting on the stage. So, he took a big gamble in getting me up on that stage. And as soon as I heard those words, I thought, I can do this. I can do whatever I choose to do. And it sort of flicked in my head. It was like a light switch came on. And from that moment on, the laughs just kept coming and coming and coming. And I didn't know whether I could remember all the jokes, and the jokes were just flowing out. And that has actually had over 1,000 hits on YouTube now.
Oh, we
And
can
that
go and
was
see it, can we? Can we?
Oh, yeah, you can see it. You can go on YouTube. It's Angela Preston Liverpool Comedy Festival.
We will put those on the show links, and we are going to have a look at that straight after this show. You've warmed me up for a bit of comedy now. Now, I'm going to play some words that really are going to take us to the next stage of the conversation, but we're really at that crux point of where do dreams and confidence actually start to collide? This is Jim Carrey.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Which is you, isn't it, Angela? Those words are so you. I can imagine those in Barry's voice. We all need a Barry in our life, I think.
Everybody does, actually, because he's so inspiring and so uplifting. And that belief really came from my mum, from when I was a little girl. Even though we grew up in a poor family, my mum always instilled. I have 5 sisters, David, and every one of us have done well in our lives simply because of the belief that she instilled in us that we could be anything. She always listened to quizzes on the radio, and she often took part. She was a very intelligent woman, but she didn't know how to use it. So what she taught us was go out there, it's a big wide world, and be whatever you want to be. And every single one of us, 4 of my sisters own their own companies. In fact, 5, because the other sister's husband owns his company, and the elder sister is a teacher. So every one of us have gone out and achieved what we wanted to achieve simply from this amazing woman that we had the privilege of calling mum. And then
I think those words are brilliant, though, Angela. I think they are brilliant, but the problem is that most people don't know what they want to be. That's the problem, isn't it?
Of course, and the only way to find out what you want to be is by finding out what you love, finding out what excites you of a morning. When you get up of a morning, what's the first thing you think about? What's the last thing you think about at night? What's that feeling inside that you say, this is for me? Follow that dream, because if you do something that, gets you a living, earns you a mediocre life, you won't do it 100%. You will give everything you've got from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes to make it work when you're passionate and it's your purpose. And for me, when you link the two together, that's when you get sparks, you get lightning, everything comes to life when you link the two of them together. And that's what I have done. I have linked the two together, and that's what keeps pushing me forward to keep moving and keep achieving and keep dreaming and keep believing. It's so important to keep all of that alive inside you.
Right, here's a question then, Angela. Okay, you take the leap and it's scary time. And so you hustle and there's perseverance and you go through the feast and famine stages like all of us have to. Then you get to a point where so many people around you will be going, oh, we always believed you were going to do this, Angela. Oh, we've always supported you right from the back. And you think to yourself, well, you bloody didn't. I had to do this on my own, and most of you thought I was having a midlife crisis. Now, how do you then progress through that next stage where the people that didn't believe in you suddenly are your greatest supporters, but you actually want to shake off and go even bigger? Because it does go in tiers, doesn't it?
Of course, and along the way, David, you lose friends that you thought were friends because they're not quite on the journey that you're on. And those same people are what push me more to keep believing and keep achieving. You can use it either way, negatively or positively. I don't hold grudges towards those people that pretended to believe in me, because I'm not sure that I would believe in someone who had the dreams that I had, simply because who am I? This girl who came from a very poor background, sometimes had the basic of food. Who am I to believe that I can achieve these things? And if I was looking in on somebody else having those same dreams that I had, I may feel the same way. So I don't feel any bitterness towards those people. What I say to those is, look what I've achieved. You can also achieve that. I will help you to achieve whatever you want to achieve. I often tell people on Facebook, if there's anything you need support or encouragement in, give me a call and I will help you. And some of those same people are people who didn't believe in what I wanted to achieve. So for me, I'd say to those people, look at what I've achieved and look what you can do. I don't hold any bitterness towards anyone. And I would support anyone who believes in a dream. I wouldn't stop anyone's dreams because it's their voices that can stop you. Never let someone else's voices be the driving force behind what you want. Let your own voice tell you, no matter who doesn't believe in you and who turns up when you're standing with your awards to say, I did believe in you when you know they didn't. Never let them stop you going further and reaching for the stars. People say the sky's the limit. There's no limits.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, that the real close people, not everyone has got a Barry. They haven't. My wife, when I took my leap to create the show, she said to me, look, I've got no idea what you're doing. I don't understand it, but I believe in you. And that's the only encouragement that I had. But she believed that I wouldn't let the family down. I wouldn't, not just work hard at it. I would sort of push through. But I kind of lost about 90% of my mates through doing this. But the 10% that I kept are amazing mates who can support me through the dark times, the good times and whatever. But you lose the mates, but I call it the success vacuum. You suddenly leave the space for other people to come into your life. And these guys, more often than not, are doing the same kind of things as you. And you fill up the gaps, don't you? And it's a great way of looking around and going, blimey, I thought I was doing all right, but look at that person. But you couldn't have got that person into your life unless you got rid of those mates.
That's right. And that's exactly what I said before. I have lost friends along the way because they have not believed in the journey that I'm on. And that's okay. That's understandable because we're all on our own journeys. And exactly like you, I've got 10% of my friends that I've kept. But I have made amazing, absolutely amazing new friends that teach me something new every day. And you're so right. People have to leave our lives for new people to enter. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, and a lesson. And that's how I look at people. It might be that I'm going to teach them or they're going to teach me something. There's a reason behind we come into each other's lives and we can always take lessons from it. So whether those people will continue with us throughout our journey, we'll never know until it actually happens. But I say, whoever enters your life or if you enter someone else's life, as long as you enter with a positive mindset and you can get something from each other and support each other, that is a bonus to me, So for people who leave your life, they leave it for a reason. They've got to go and add some value to someone else's life, or someone has got to add value to theirs. So those people who you leave behind, there's a reason why they're left behind. And if they're meant to be in your life, they'll come back later on.
People come into our life for a reason, a season, and a lesson. I've never heard that before, but that's spot on, isn't it?
It certainly is, because we learn from everything that happens in our life. I've had times in the job that I was in, I actually had a gun held to my head. Now, anyone else would have, maybe they would have collapsed. It was actually held to my head, and someone else could have collapsed around that and not been able to recover. But I was actually grateful because I was still here. Every day and every night has started and finished with the same, I love you, to my 3 children. They're all men now, and I still have that same conversation with them every day. And if that gun would have gone off, I wouldn't have been here to play a part in their life, and I wouldn't have been able to say good night, I love you, and good morning, I love you, have a lovely day. Those words would never have been said again. So I am grateful for everything that comes into my life. Every lesson that it happens, I take something from it. And I took from that day with that gun that I was still here to say those important words to my children. So it encourages them to believe in themselves, to go out.
So how did this happen, Angela? This gun being pointed at your head?
This was in an area where I covered in the role that I was doing. And there was some guys, and it wasn't anything to do with the job. As I went to turn my car around, it was a summer's day, and I had the windows down, and he happened to be on the step of this house with a gun, and turns out he was polishing this gun, and he just, for a joke, decided to put this gun to my head. And the police, the police came from everywhere, armed response and everything. And for me, I drove away at first and thought, did that really happen? I was turning my car around and I thought, did that really happen? And then as I got a little bit further down, a guy came out of his house and I said, I've just had a gun held to my head. And he said, you need to ring the police. I wasn't ringing the police. I was just going home and just going to carry on with my day. And I thought, oh my goodness, that really didn't happen. But it did. So when the police turned up, I felt embarrassed because I thought, I'm okay. It's costing the, Merseyside police thousands of pounds to turn up here, and I'm okay. So I need to go. I was quite embarrassed by all the kerfuffle and everything around it. And it was only the police lady said to me, don't be embarrassed and don't be sorry for ringing us, because there was a guy last week down south had the same gun held to his head and he was killed. And then reality hit home and I thought, my goodness, how easy could I have been gone today?
And did that really spark you up? Did that really spark up the ambition in you?
Well,
I know you
I was just about to say, that didn't even change my path. I continued with the job for another 5 years and I got promoted after that. That didn't change the path that I'm now on. I carried on as normal, like this hadn't happened. And it was only when I was writing the book, and I actually talk about going in the book, that reality hit, that, a turn to the left or a turn to the right, I might not have been here any longer. But I took a lesson from that day, that I was still here to say those important words that mean so much to me and my children. And I say in everything that happens in our life, there's a lesson to be learned from it. It taught me never to be unaware of the surroundings of where you are, because I knew the area. I thought I was okay in that area, but it taught me to never take anything for granted.
And has that added to the power of your work now? Did you think if that situation hadn't occurred, would you be as good as you are now? Do you need the dark to be able to really blaze bright?
I think it adds to the person you become. You have to go through these trials and tribulations in your life to be able to resonate with other people and be able to advise people on how you got over the situation. That doesn't mean they'll get over it in the same way, but at least they've got an idea and they can come up with their own ideas of how to get over something. I think you do need to go through some dark times to be able to become that person that you've always wanted to be. That gun for me was nothing compared to losing my mum and losing my dad and my father-in-law all within 18 months, and Barry falling off a roof and nearly being killed 4 weeks after losing my mum. That was the biggest challenge for me, was getting over my mum's death completely threw me. And then 4 weeks later, for my husband to nearly be killed, and he's now disabled for life because of that accident. That was the biggest thing that I ever had to overcome all at once. So the gun was a drop in the, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was a drop in the ocean compared to what I lost, because I was still here after that gun scenario, that gun episode. It was the loss of my mum and the devastation around the accident that my husband had that threw me and changed me as a person.
Because in my life, I think that 90% of the dark times have been self-inflicted. I look back and I think most of it was the kind of weird self-sabotage, that I wasn't happy in my situation, so I kind of tried to break it. Now, I couldn't see it at the time, and I would have sworn blind that, bad things were happening to me and it was nothing to do with me. But I look back on them now and I think to myself, no, actually, I think I was a big part of all that happening. I think the only thing that's ever bad that's happened into my life was, me and my wife had a miscarriage, which happens to so many other people. But I think that's the only time in life that something out of my control has been thrown in my path. Everything else has been me doing it to myself somehow. Seems a bit weird when I say that, Angela, but I think it's true.
I think most of us can self-sabotage things, because now you have just reminded me that I may have done exactly the same in certain situations, but we don't like to admit it. Now you've just, raised something within me to make me realise that there probably has been times, and probably I played a little part in, what happened in the company I was in, because I wasn't happy with the way the company was going and how they were working with people. I was making it very obvious that I wasn't happy, because I have a certain way of how I managed, of how I led people, and because I wasn't being managed and led that way any longer, then I wasn't happy. So maybe now you've made me realise that we all sabotage ourselves in some way, shape or form. But that self-sabotage can lead to greater things. And that's how to look at it. Again, in everything, there's a lesson to be learned from. So I'm taking a lesson from this interview with yourself, actually, David, because I never thought of self-sabotage in the way that you've just described it.
You see, I've come into your life for a reason, a season, and a lesson. You see? You see?
You've given me a lesson. You've gave me a lesson in self-sabotaging.
But with self-sabotaging, it's only, if you look at it in a positive way, which I like to do, it's us taking actions, isn't it? Our whole life is about us taking actions. And once you realise that and you start doing stuff, then life changes like magic and things just magically come your way. But the problem with life, and I'm sure that you've seen it around Liverpool and Merseyside as I've seen it down in London and Essex, is so many people are hustling and bustling, going to work, coming back, that literally they're like the Walking Dead. You see them go to work every morning in their suits and their ties, living life, but actually they're not living at all. They're just dead somehow. They're not taking the right kind of actions. They're letting other people dictate those actions, aren't they?
I say this to my husband all the time. I am really ambitious, and my 3 sons are exactly the same. Barry is quite happy to. Barry writes my jokes. From not doing comedy, David, I now do stand-up comedy for charity. So Barry is quite happy to drive his Acne around Liverpool, and then when he has time, he sits and he writes my jokes for me to do my stand-up gigs. I am the most ambitious person you will meet, and when I meet people who just go through the motions of life, it amazes me. I get absolutely amazed. I think if you're going to be a cleaner, why don't you be the boss of the cleaning company? Why don't you teach others how to clean it? I think if you're going to work in a company, why not be the director? And that's my mindset. So when I see people who just go through the motions and just get on with doing whatever they're meant to do and be told when to get up, when to go to bed and what to do in between, I am flabbergasted by that, absolutely. Because when you take control of your life and what you want to do and what you want to achieve, it opens up so many doors. It opens up so many opportunities and life becomes exciting. When I decided to leave the job I was in, that's when I truly started to live. I found my purpose, and I believe every single person is put on this earth for a purpose. When you're born, you come with a purpose. And when you find out what that purpose is, that's when you truly start living.
I disagree with this, Angela. I disagree with you totally there, because I think you're born with a purpose, absolutely. I don't think any of us find out what that purpose is. I think that we just forget. I'm absolutely convinced if we could go back in time and find our younger self, which we will do later on in the show, and say to them, look, remember this. Remember what you're doing now. I can see that you love, little Angela. Look what you're doing, little David. This is something that's important to you. Don't just go off into the job because somebody offers it to you. Don't do anything that doesn't excite you. But that's the problem. It's that middle bit from about 14 to, 25, maybe up to 40, I suppose, where you think that you've got to grow up and you don't have to do the things that used to be fun when you was a kid. I don't think we ever find the path. I think we forget it.
Well, I have found mine. So I am a prime example that people do. find a purpose in life. You know, you look at the likes of Richard Branson and Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins' purpose is to save thousands and thousands of people and help them find what they truly want in life. And he does that magnificently, because I've been to his 5-day event in London. And so he has found his purpose. So I disagree with you also, because I have found my purpose, and I didn't find that until I was 46. Other people find it from a very young age. My son was 5 when he decided he wanted what he wanted to do. He's just achieved that, and it took him 17 years. He went to university. He studied and studied in school. He went to university, and he's now starting his new job in September. So for me, some people find a purpose very early in life. The same, Leighton is very much like me. He wants to save people, and he's found what he wants to do from 5 years of age, and he's now ready to start on that path of his purpose.
Yeah, but that's what that's the thing. He found it. He didn't find it at the age of 5 years old. It was in him. We've all got our talents. This is the thing. It's, I don't think that you have found your thing later in life. You've always had your thing. Oh, it's always been there. And every single one of us has got a super talent. Some of us have got multiple super talents that just are so easy to do. We think we can't get paid for this. This is too much fun. You see it as pop stars when they get up on stage and they entertain 100,000 people, and then they go home and they're really miserable because they think, I don't deserve all this adulation. I don't deserve all this. They're just playing to their super talent. That's what we want. So your son, he didn't find his path. He just retained his path. That's the thing. And I lost track of my path, and I know it. And if I had gone back and I'd studied myself enough, I wouldn't have allowed that to happen. That's my point, Angela. Do you now agree with me?
I agree there with you, but what I say is that's where your purpose is. If you'd have carried on that path, and you will, because we all eventually go back to the path we were meant to be on. Every single one of us go back to that path. And your path will come back to you, and that's where your purpose is. When you eventually go back to that path, that's where your purpose is. And that's what I'm saying, and it took for me to go through all what I went through, and at 46, find the path that I was meant to be on. And that's when I truly started to live my life, when I was doing the job that I was born to do. We are all born to do a certain job. And I believe that also, that it comes in line with your purpose and your passion. But I have always linked I am a very passionate person. If I believe in something, I give it 100% and more every week and hour. I work towards achieving it. So I have always linked passion to the purpose that I'm doing now. Whatever purpose I thought was right at the time, the passion is what's driven me. This path I'm on now is, without a shadow of a doubt, the path that I was meant to be on. I was meant to save people. I was meant to inspire people to believe that anything is possible.
I tell you what, as Sinatra said, I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn and a king. And you try everything, don't you? You try loads of different things, but once you find your thing, that's when life comes together, as he said.
Exactly, and that's right. And it's like we have to kiss loads of frogs before we find our prince. So it's exactly the same as Frank Sinatra's song, a puppet, a poet. We have to do all those things. And I think what we do in all those things that we do, we learn from them and we can use as we get to what we want to do. So wherever path we may go down, whatever job we go into, we can take something from that. And it teaches us things that we can use further on down the line. And that's exactly what I did. When I decided to write the book, I didn't know how to write a book, although I'd always worked in corporate world and was, looking after objectives of 9 million a year and 54 self-employed agents and 6 managers. But what I learned in there, I could not utilise all of those skills. I had to learn new skills. So you learn something, each path you go on, you learn something new of how to put that into something else, what you've got, what you want to achieve.
But let's play the words now of the late Steve Jobs, who created the whole theme of Join Up Dots. And he left a legacy with these words, and so they're worth listening to again. Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Do they make all the difference, Angela?
It certainly does. It certainly does. You do have to connect them up for you to get where you wanted to go. And that's what I did. You know, I've joined them all up to get where I am today.
So what would be your big dot in life? I love asking this question, but when you look back over everything, what would be the sort of moment that you would go, yeah, that's when it started to really happen for me?
I would say from when the day that my first book was launched was the day that I knew I could achieve anything. And that's when it all happened. You know, I wasn't getting paid a salary at that time. I wasn't earning any money from it. But that's when it came together for me, because I'd walked away from the comfort of a salary the year before. I'd resigned on the 10th of May. I actually left on the 8th of August. And I started writing the book on the 10th of July. The book was published on the 28th of July the following year, 2015. And I launched the book on the 14th of August. And that, for me, was the biggest step that I had taken, because all that work behind the scenes, when I had to explain to people I was writing a book, no one actually believed it would be done. And I lost 2 dear friends along the way that I thought were very close to me. And whilst the book was still being published, it wasn't real. But the day the book was published and I actually launched it, those 2 friends decided to walk out of my life. And it hurt. It hurt big time, because I've gone on holiday with these 2 friends for 10 years and we've laughed and we've cried. We've had lots of fun. And for me, that was the day that I realised that I would achieve anything, and it was all starting to come together, because this book was now in my hands and I was signing copies, and I thought, wow, that little old me from Radcliffe Walk is actually a published author. But David, believe it or not, I still didn't feel like a real author. That's why I've written the second book. I felt like maybe it was a fluke. I'd become an author. So
No, I believe that. I believe that totally, Angela, because, you know, I must have done 300 episodes of my show before I totally bought into the fact that I was a podcaster. It was almost like the other guys out there, the other ladies were the proper people, and I was just playing at it. It's really weird, but I was in the shower one morning, and I spoke about this a lot, and I was thinking, how would I explain what I do to anybody? And then I thought, oh yeah, I'm a podcaster. And as soon as I thought that, then it all come together. It was just like everything suddenly became easy after that, because I finally bought into what I was doing, and I think the quality of everything became better afterwards.
Yes, definitely. I agree with that, because you sort of think, is this really happening to me? Because all those thoughts were going through my head. Why did I think I was worthy of this? All those normal thoughts that we have. And then when it really happens and you get that, you know, as you say, the joining up of the dots, and you get that feeling inside that, yes, I've really achieved this. That's when you realise anything's possible.
Well, let's bring something... Oh, bear with me a moment. Something just happened on my machine. I'll just make a note of that, Angela. I thought my whole system was going to crash then. No problem. Right, here we go. Well, this is the part of the show when we're going to send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and speak to the young Angela, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out, because I'm going to play the theme tune, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
I would talk to my younger self from the age of 5. And when I was writing what I thought were dreams and wishes, if I could have understood how important that really was in my life at that time and the part it would play as I grew up and as I have become to the age that I'm at and the goals that I've achieved, goal setting was really important. And I didn't know at that time that that's what I was doing. I was forming a skill that would serve me right throughout life. So it's very important to understand how to set goals. And as well as writing them down and visualizing them, you have to use action to get to them goals, because you won't achieve. I would have worked hard in school. I would have listened, and I would have made sure that I did everything to get me towards going to university and achieve my goal of becoming a writer and a journalist. Read and research role models, because it's very important that if you want to be something or achieve something, you look at people who've done it before you and you see how they've achieved success. Contact people who've been there before you. Ask if they can give you any advice on what they did, if they can mentor you in any way. I find it's really important to attend workshops and courses, and if I'd have done that when I was young, my middle son has done that to achieve what he's got, what he's about to start in September, and he's attended all these courses. If I'd have only done that, that would have made a huge difference in my life. This is the biggest one for me. Keep a positive mindset and build on that self-belief, because without self-belief, you can never achieve what you want. For me, self-belief was the biggest motivator to keep me moving forwards. It gave me the courage to believe anything was possible. Start and end the day with gratitude. When you realise what you are grateful for, your life opens up. The changes in your life become much better because you realise how grateful you are for what you've got. Giving is huge. I give a lot of time to charities, and for me, that's the best part of this journey that I am on, is giving the time, giving advice if I can, and possessions where I can. It makes your life richer when you're giving. Start and end the day with a positive quote, because your day starts in a positive way and it will end in a positive way. And the biggest one for me is work hard. When you work hard, you achieve everything you set your heart on.
What's the number one best way that our audience can connect with you?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, but my website is www.angelaprestoncoaching.com. And my book is www.angelapreston1.com.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us today, joining up those dots. Please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Angela Preston, thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Thank you for the opportunity.
And that was Angela Preston, all the way from Merseyside, coming to you on Join Up Dots and sharing a story which so many of us would have resonated with. It was the story of overcoming those fears that we talk about every single day on Join Up Dots. But Angela did it. She did it. She created her first book, still didn't quite believe in herself, so she did it again. She went for her next book. Now she's totally up and running, and you can hear it. She loves what she's doing. She loves being a motivational speaker. She loves being a coach, an author, and everything that comes with it. Absolutely inspiring, and that is the kind of story that you guys can create. And I would love it if somebody out there says to me, like a few of you have done in the past, because of Join Up Dots, I have done X, Y, Z. I deserve to be on the show. Thank you so much for listening. I was David Ralph. That was Join Up Dots, and we'll speak again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Are you tired of the same routine, the 9 to 5, the mundane? Or perhaps have lost touch with the dreams and passions that led to a life that's a wow and simply don't know where to start? Then Join Up Dots has the answer. Dream Starter Academy is the #1 group mastermind online today, showing our members how to create their own business, lifestyle, or dream job. Teaching you how to find your thing. Teaching you how to build income around your passions. And giving you a life where you leap out of bed with a... instead of a... We surround you 24/7 with the greatest entrepreneurs, business owners, and dreamers online today who are ready to help you get going. They followed the simple steps laid out for them and saw their lives change forever, and you can do the same. So are you ready to change your life, explode your income, and create the dream life that you have always, well, dreamt of? Then join with us today by heading over to joinupdots.com and look for Dream Starter Academy. We look forward to working with you. See you on the inside.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.